So let's open it up, man. We've got Dagan Martinez here. He waited, wanted to make sure that we had it together so that when he got on, it was chugging along.
Yep.
And here we are. I want to say you've got to be over number 40 in terms of podcasts. So I definitely have some experience here, and we've ironed out all the kinks and everything along those lines. And we've got a lot to talk about because not only do we want to talk about the whole entrepreneurial side of things regarding networking and new business and how we obtain business, but we're also in the presence of a writer. We've got someone here. You're my first author.
Oh, nice.
My first author
That's
on
great.
the on the podcast here. So, lots of questions about that. And where do we begin, man? What do you want to start with? I mean, we got lots of stuff. You want to start with the biz, or you want to start with the book?
Let's start with the book.
Right on. Well, tell me about it.
just-
How did how did it start? Well, first of all, let's hold up the book. Let's get let's get it out there. It's Play the Room, and tell us about it. Tell us how it started. What made you decide to write it? What's it about, and where can we get it?
So first, before I forget, you can get it on Amazon. If you can hunt me down, you can always get one from me.
There you go.
The publisher also put it across a bunch of other sites, so you definitely can find it out and about. But of course, Amazon being the biggest, most popular one, that's a good spot.
Gotcha.
It's on Kindle and soft cover, and I'm aiming for Audible, but
I was
people
gonna
don't
say.
realize it. Every time you do another platform, it costs a lot of money.
I see.
So
Yeah, I stopped reading years ago, so
Yeah.
I've been waiting for it to come on Audible.
I'm not gonna lie, I really do a lot more Audible than anything. So
Right.
I'm
Maybe I
gonna-
could find someone to read it to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna do one.
Okay.
I know a good place where I can probably record it.
Yeah,
This
you
might
could,
work right
you
here.
could definitely record it here. You got everything you need, that's for sure. So what inspired you to write the book?
So for many years, I've been in the networking industry. I would sit down with people and to do a one-to-one so that we could see if we're good referral partners
Mm-hmm.
or how we can get referrals from each other. And they would ask questions about, well, they're not really good or didn't have the answers to some of the questions I have. And be like, yeah, well, I noticed you don't like tell us when you're actually talking to the group.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, I don't really know how to do my message correctly. And so then I'd start giving advice,
Mm-hmm.
and people would start asking me, man, you should write a book.
Yeah.
And I didn't think much of it until it was basically almost once a week I would get told that. And after about a year or two, I was like, okay, I think I need to go
Maybe
ahead and do
people
this.
are onto something.
And most of us are not trained in how to network or how to walk into a room and socialize and come away with tangible action items. And because I used to work for Jack Daniels and a few other alcohol brands for many years, I was basically paid to network
Mm-hmm.
5 nights a week. So
Right.
I was out and about at galas and tournaments and concerts and nonprofit events and all different types.
Sure.
And so I kind of knew more than the next person, which most don't know anything. So I just realized I got to help people, and not gonna lie, I was kind of tired of repeating myself over and over. So
Now it's like, here's the blueprint.
yeah, here's the book. Just read this, and this will give you everything I would tell you to your face. But now you can just read it.
Sure. Well, and again, I mean, one of the things we talk about on here is ways to obtain new business. And a lot of people who have come on and I ask, what are you doing to go out and find new clients, outside of the ones that or, the word of mouth that you're getting. And I'd say over half of them say networking. And what's interesting is that the ones that don't say it, and I kind of ask, are you doing any networking? A lot of them kind of express a little bit of a insecurity towards it, right? They're fearful to get out there. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to act. They don't know if they're, being too salesy with talking about what it is that they do. They don't know if they're not being, salesy enough where they're just maybe making friends but not talking business. So having something like this, I think for a lot of people is definitely, it's one of those things maybe you buy secretly, right? You don't want to admit you don't know what you're doing. You're like, I'm going to get this book. Maybe this will
Yeah.
help me out.
I mean, if you're a rookie, it's given you all 20 years of my experience all
Mhm.
summed up into one. And while I'm in the insurance industry, I was in the tech industry for a little bit. and I was also in the alcohol industry. So I've repeated the same tactics in 3 different types of occupations, and it worked each time. So you're going to get all that information summed up. There's no fluff in the book. The book takes about an hour to hour and a half to read it, and I purposely made it that long so that so that it's the same length as a one-to-one meeting or a networking event.
Gotcha.
And it's even got some nice size print on it too. So
Make it a
it's
little
good.
easier for you,
Yeah,
so you
because
don't have to break out the spectacles.
yeah, I'm not even that, you know, old in age yet, and I'm still looking at some people's books. I'm just like, oh my God, I need like a pair of glasses to read this.
Well, and some of the things we've talked about when it comes to networking is that, going back to the people that seem to be slightly against it, it seems to be more of an insecurity. The line I get a lot is, well, that's not really my thing. And what I've identified through networking is that it's not so much the amount of referrals that you're receiving through networking, but it's the quality, right? In other words, there's lead sources out there for any business. You can buy leads. You can, sift through a bunch of people who maybe put their information online, and you can get a quantity of leads by doing things like that. Whereas networking, you might not receive as much business as you could in terms of the quantity, but the quality is there because you're being referred by people that know each other. They know that they're not going to refer somebody out that, they wouldn't maybe do business with themselves and everything along those lines. And that's why I encourage people to do the kind of networking stuff, because I see sometimes people go in, and I'm sure you experience this all the time. 90 days goes by and they're like, I'm not really getting anything out of this.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, well, what do you really expect out of 90 days, number one? And number two, when you do end up getting that referral and you close that deal, I promise it's going to be a much smoother process than it would be than if you were just dealing with some guy on the street or someone who connects on the internet and says, hey, I saw your name. You do insurance. Give me a quote.
Right.
Right.
And the good thing about networking is those referrals will come to you. So like if you're buying leads and you're calling leads and you're having a bad day or whatnot, all of a sudden someone calls you instead of you calling them
Mm-hmm.
and saying, hey, Bob told me to give you a call. I need insurance. I need it today. And can you help me?
Right.
Wow. I didn't do anything for that. I was actually sitting at home all day. But because of those planting those seeds earlier in the year, those come back. And so
Mm-hmm.
I always tell everyone, it's not necessarily great to just do one platform. Like do some networking, buy some leads, go door knock if that's your thing too. Do whatever you need to, but you should be bringing in different avenues to
Sure.
bring in your income and
Diversify your portfolio.
exactly. There you go. And also it helps with sanity. The hardest thing about doing cold calls or buying leads all the time is people get burned out really fast, even when you're making money,
Right.
because you're just sitting there all day and you don't have anyone to talk to usually because you don't have counterparts or, they're at their homes making phone calls. When you're able to go to a room full of peers that are not above you at your job or counterparts that work with you and they're not your clients, you get to find out what's working for them, what's not working, what they're doing to make their business better.
Right.
Is it a CRM tool? Is it an accountant? Certain bookkeepers? I mean, you're learning all these people, and you're getting a Rolodex of people. For those that know what a Rolodex still is,
Right.
you're getting a list of people to refer to your clients. So when you're dealing with that client, and they're like, well, I could use this, and I need this type of person, and they're not even in your city, but you know someone who can take care of them. They're going to keep coming back to you for more stuff, and they're less likely to jump ship because they're like, he's a resource that I use.
Right on.
And that's what networking helps. Most people don't realize 90% of people have no idea where to go to get a financial advisor.
Right.
Or
And it's not something you really just want to Google.
no, because nowadays you'll get spammed.
That's true.
So that's
Probably just a lead source for financial advisors.
exactly, yeah.
Right.
So that's why, and in the book I constantly talk about this is for introverts. This is for people who hate networking. And if you hate networking, it's because you're doing it wrong, and there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. You weren't trained, and so And when someone says, "Well, networking's really not for me," you know what my response is every time? "Oh, you don't like money?"
Right. Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, no, I like money." Well, that's what networking's for.
Yeah, I would say networking for almost what 90% of any career is absolutely necessary. I mean, you might be able to find a few jobs out there or businesses out there that kind of don't require something like that. But then even if, you could point me to those businesses, I could argue that you could still increase profitability by networking.
Yeah. And of course there's two types. There's transactional and there's relationship building. So if like I brought up financial advisor, it might take months for someone to actually want to use you as a resource because they're trusting you with all their money.
Yeah.
Get that. But even in my industry, being in insurance, there's people that I meet and within the same hour meeting, they're like, my dad needs insurance. He left his corporate job. He's going to do something. He doesn't really know anyone. He told me to ask. Tell me more about what you do. And because I already knew a couple of the other people in the room,
Mm-hmm.
that helped validate it. And so she sent me a referral, and it ended up being one of the biggest referrals I got for the whole year from every
Wow.
source I got. And it was free. I didn't do anything but show up and eat. It was at a lunch.
Hmm.
I'm sitting there eating, and
You never know.
someone's giving me clients and money. Like, that's just crazy.
Well, that's one thing that I always attest to networking is that I can't tell you how many times I have gotten deals and they're from situations that occurred like years ago. And you just never know, right? And that's why it's cliche, but I feel like with networking, it's all about just you got to show up,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's at networking groups. I mean, we do some of these, client appreciation. I have one tonight. It's an appreciation party, real estate appreciation party for past clients and stuff like that. And it's one of the
Nice.
real estate agents I work with a lot. And there's probably going to be a good 8 or 10 people that I was the loan officer on. And of course, there's going to be a lot more people. And it's really easy for me to be like, oh, well, I'm not going to know a lot of the people there. But you just never know.
Yeah.
You literally just never know who's going to be there, who you're going to run into. And then, yeah, you might not get that instant gratification, but a couple years go by or a couple months go by, ring, ring, ring. Hey, Matt, we're thinking about buying a home. And you can attribute it all to dragging yourself to that event and
Yeah.
just being there.
Yeah. And it's usually not a boring event.
Right.
It's yeah.
I think this one's going to be pretty fun.
That sounds like fun.
So one thing I have to ask out of my own curiosity, how difficult was it to get the book done? Not to write it, but like, okay, you've written a book, you've got it on your laptop or however you physically wrote it. How difficult was it to get it going, get it published, and do all of those things?
Yeah, it's quite an event now because I'll preface this because my wife has delivered babies. I will say it feels like we're giving birth to a third child.
Right.
Not to take anything away
No,
from
no.
giving birth.
Careful.
I know, right? But it takes quite a while. They said it takes usually 1 to 2 years minimum to get a book out, and because it is a process.
Yeah. What's the hang up?
Yeah, because you need. So I'll sum it up real quick. Once you write the book, you need an editor. So you need to find that. Now, if you just want to throw money and go grab a publisher and spend 8 to 10 grand, they'll do everything for you.
Okay.
But they'll still take quite a while to probably do it all. But they'll make it all happen. Most people aren't trying to do that. They're not
Right.
trying to spend 8 to 10,000. You'll never make all that money back unless you're, Matthew McConaughey or something.
Hey.
But you need to get an editor. And what's really cool, and this is why networking really helps, is every single person I used for this book
Mm-hmm.
was someone I met through networking.
Okay.
And so that helped a lot. It also, get nice discounts. Not that
Sure.
they need to do discounts, but
Right.
got them.
Well, people wanted to help you out.
Yeah. And they see what you're doing. And so while you're not there to network for your book, people start showing up. And there was a coach that gave me free advice on how to write the book very fast, which I did.
Mm-hmm.
Someone I needed an editor to help me edit. You just don't want to grab any editor. You want to grab someone who knows your tone, who knows how you speak, because they can totally change your whole book without even realizing it. So
Yeah, I could see
you
that.
just can't go to Fiverr or something or one of these websites.
Right.
You have to come up with what you want the book to look like. That's the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
What your cover is going to look like. The hardest thing for me was actually the title, because you literally have to come up with a title that's 1 to 5 words that hasn't been used,
Mm-hmm.
that's also catchy, and like 1 or 2 other factoids I can't remember off the top of my head. That was really hard to do. Everything I kept coming up with, I would look up, and I would look up the title, and it wasn't even a book in my genre. It would be a kid's book, let's say,
Right.
in a popular kid's book, or a book for written by a doctor for psychology. And so it took me quite a while, but I went to some networkers, and they came up with it in like 5 minutes.
Wow.
And I just said, hey, let's all sit down. You stand up, tell us in 5 minutes, give us a recap of what the book is, basically the back of the book, but with a little more details.
Yeah.
And as I was finished, they said, what about Play the Room? And I was like, that's it. Stop. We're done. I don't want to hear any more.
Love it.
That's perfect.
It's a cool story.
And so, and then you just need, there's more parts of the process. I used the publisher I did use, I met through a networker who had written a book, and several others had written their books, and got to meet a couple different publishers. And I met a really big publishing company in New York, which I'm not for them. They like to be part of the whole process. And I said, listen, I have the book. It's done. Like, everything's been done. I just need someone to help me with the formatting and get it out there on, and do it properly on Amazon and all that, and make it look legit, professional.
Yeah.
I didn't want to just self-publish. And they introduced me to one actually near me, said, we recommend this publisher, and she'd work with what you've got and probably with your budget, because you don't need much. And so everyone I met that helped him with this book is someone from networking, which is really great, because that's the book is about, networking.
Well, yeah, and it's validating, right? I mean, it just validates everything that you're saying about the power of networking. And I think that's powerful, because it would be kind of weird if you said, hey, networking is great. Everybody I use is outside of my network.
Yeah, I'm just gonna pay someone a
Be a
lot
little
of money
hypocritical.
and spend 10 grand on some random stranger to do it all for me, because there's some big publishing company, which is not a bad thing to do. It's just, why do it?
Is there anything once the book was published that has kind of transpired since writing the book that you didn't expect to happen and it kind of did?
You know what? It's still being a little weird being introduced as a best-selling author,
Okay.
because the book did hit Amazon bestseller for about a week.
Congrats.
Yeah. So anything more than a few hours is great. We held on for a whole week.
Right.
And so when someone's like, hey, so we best-selling author Dagan is here, and I'm like, whoa, that feels weird. It's like
You'll get used to it.
yeah, it's like getting your degree in as a doctor and some doctor title. It's a little weird at first.
In this day and age with social media and all of the the haters out there, has anybody kind of trolled you online or anything like that?
I'm praying. I'm going to screenshot my first troller.
Right.
I would love to be big enough to have that.
So not yet.
No, not yet.
Yeah, that's when you know you've done something right.
Yeah.
When the haters come out, then it's like, all right, now I'm really a big deal.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Okay.
But I've had some people that have many years of experience read the book and say, "Oh, this is good," and it's.
Well, I saw you met Ivan Meisner, and
Yeah.
he promoted it. And for those that don't know, Ivan Meisner is the basically the inventor, or I guess he's the president of BNI,
the founder
of BNI, which is a huge global business networking organization.
It's the largest.
Yeah, and he really anyone who does anything with networking knows who he is. And I saw that you took a photo with him, and he kind of gave you the thumbs up on the book, so that was really cool.
Yeah, that was really nice. He's about 20 something books in, so
Yeah, right, exactly.
it's
he's the grandfather,
and everyone wants him to read his book. He's got probably a desk covered in books that people are
I bet.
asking him to read. So getting any kind of thumbs up is great. So that's awesome.
Well, I wish you continued success with it, man. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
congrats, and I'm sure that I know it just came out recently. I'm sure people will continue to purchase it, and
Yeah.
it'll do well. I'm sure of it, and everybody now knows where to get it. So hopefully this'll boost those sales
Yep.
and get some more people out there and networking, because we selfishly need you out there too to network, right? I mean,
Right.
we can't just network with each other all the
No,
time.
it'd get boring after a while if it's just me and you.
So when you are out networking, you do an insurance,
Yeah.
right? So tell us just a little bit about what you're doing and who you're looking for. And I know that we talked a little bit before this in terms of the types of individuals that are watching this that you could really help out, but run with it, man. Start from the
Yeah,
top.
yeah.
So what do you do?
So I do life insurance and critical illness policies. So your disability, cancer policies, accident, heart, all those. I do get a lot of realtors that reach out to me for the accident plan
Okay.
because it's basically like the cost of Netflix.
Sure.
And because realtors are constantly on properties they're not familiar with, they're always in their cars driving. There's always accidents that happen. And I know realtors have always joked, if you haven't slipped on some kind of stairs, then you haven't been a realtor long enough. Especially
real estate, the most dangerous game.
especially for those that wear heels or whatnot.
Right behind those fishermen in the North Atlantic, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right behind that. But generally, one of the biggest things that occurs, so a realtor, anyone in the mortgage industry, is selling the dream. You're
Yeah.
basically giving someone the biggest thing they will own in their lives, generally speaking. And
And I give them the debt.
yeah, you give them all the debt, and then they're cash broke for at least the next 2-3 years, especially if they're spending money on fixing up the house
Furniture.
and getting it ready and all that good stuff.
It never ends.
Yeah. So the last thing they need is a medical catastrophe. And sadly, things like cancer don't care.
That's true.
And so what happens is once you sell them a home or even a refinance, that is public knowledge
Mhm.
that people can look it up.
Sure.
Insurance companies spend, I don't even know the number. It's
I'm
a
sure it's billions with a B.
number, sending flyers in their mailboxes and bombarding them, and even now getting their cell numbers and start spamming them saying, "Hey, we saw you just bought a new house. You know, 500,000.
Do you want mortgage protection services?
Do you want mortgage protection?"
We get a lot of those that my clients contact me and they come over and they know that we did the loan and they make it look as if we're the ones that are sending it. So by we, I mean like my mortgage company. So it'll come over and people will reach out and say, "Matt, I'm looking at this mortgage protection service thing that you sent me." It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I didn't
Wow.
send you anything.
They're getting good.
Yeah.
They spend a lot of money because at least 20% respond and get a policy.
Wow.
And it's a huge industry. And by the way, mortgage protection, I get this question a lot. It's just life insurance.
Right.
It's nothing special. It's just life insurance that's
They
based.
they're trying to make it sound sexy.
Right. But it's based on your mortgage and,
Yeah.
and it helps during the time frame that you will have that mortgage of 20, 30 years. But really it's just a life insurance policy that's kind of catered to your mortgage. But there's nothing really fancy different about it than any other life insurance policy.
Well, I think they're doing it as a sales tactic because when people hear life insurance, they're just, it's like Dracula entered the room.
Right.
They're like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah. But when you say protect your mortgage.
Right.
Oh, man. But here's the thing. I know a ton of people in the mortgage industry, a lot of realtors, and they're not letting their clients know that they have a guy for insurance, and it doesn't have to be me, but they
Sure.
almost all know someone
Right.
that can do that for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get all this street cred and make it look good. And I think part of the problem is people in the industry will say, well, I'm already bombarding them enough with things, and I don't want them thinking of death. I just sold them a beautiful house.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, but you're not, one, that's the inner voice in your head, which
Agreed.
if you read the book, that's in there. But two, it's I'm the number one thing that's saving them from losing the dream.
Right.
You sold them the dream. Let me help them keep the dream. And one of the things I do that most other people I come across in the insurance world do not do is I can put those individuals and get them qualified for group rates. So even if they're over 50 or over 60 or even over 70, I can get them group rates, which
Mhm.
means I can get them, let's say, $20,000 covered for cancer, lump sum. They're going to get cash, a fully loaded GoFundMe account of $20,000 for about $20.
Right.
Same as Netflix, that's all I always like to say.
Yeah.
That's
I think Netflix is more
ridiculously
expensive
cheap.
now.
Yeah, it probably. I think it's gone up a couple more
Yeah.
dollars. You know, they don't. It doesn't have to be the life insurance, but get at least something for cancer because
Sure.
that one is the biggest one. It's the one that takes the most money. Cancer doesn't care that you just bought a new house or that you're poor broke for the next 3
Right.
years. And so, when I'm helping people with the cancer policies or even the life policies, it's amazing how much people feel better after they've like bought a house in the last year or two or had a baby. That's usually a big time too.
Yeah.
Any life changes. And they're like, oh, I'm just so glad to get this done with. This has been bothering me for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I usually tell them, well, your realtor probably knew me
Yeah.
or knew someone.
Maybe.
I
Yeah.
was like, you know, realtors know a lot of people. So
Yeah.
feel free to reach out to me or your realtor. We probably know. But I'm usually plugging realtors on something they should be plugging for themselves because their people need it.
Yeah.
And I get it. We want to tell our new buyers about the pest control guy and the security guy and the lawnmower guy or the pool guy, but
I
this
think you'd be
is
surprised how many real estate agents are unaware of what we're talking about right now,
yeah,
to be quite honest. And I think it's a combination of just, education.
yeah,
And then I will say I do run into quite a few people. I'd say about over 50% that they kind of have it together. You know what I
right,
mean? That this might not be their first purchase. It's usually
correct.
like your first time home buyers and stuff like that. But I think the majority of it literally is just, not being educated about it.
Yeah,
and-
and most don't know there's policies specifically for cancer.
Right.
And I know I didn't before I
Well,
got
they're
in the
gonna know
industry.
now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what this is all about, man. Getting the word out. I
Yeah.
think it's good stuff.
And it's very, very helpful to the families when something medical catastrophe like that happens and they don't lose their home. They're really happy with their realtor.
Yeah, I mean, and again, let's face it, procrastination is like, at an all-time high, and that's one of the other obstacles. I think you'd also be surprised the amount of real estate agents that maybe did say something, and
Right.
everyone's just so busy
Yeah.
watching Netflix.
Right. I actually tell realtors just give me their information. I'll put it to reach out to them in about 30 days.
Yep.
If I wait any longer, they've already been bombarded with the flyers. But within the first 30 days, I'll hit them up and say, "Hey, I'm just letting you know that, thanks to so and so for, helping you buy the house. I help you hold on to the house. When you're ready, I'm available."
Yeah.
And then they can ignore all the flyers and all that. They're like, wait, we have someone that's been vetted by our realtor, so we'll use them. And they'll call, but at least get all this stuff worked out because then they end up getting one of those random mailers. And I know agents that use those mailers, so I'm not knocking them. It's a great strategy.
20% is a pretty high conversion rate.
I mean, there's people that's all they do all day long. They just pay for a third party to send those flyers out, and they just take calls all day, and they call them, and they'll call them constantly for 6 months until they pick up the phone.
Pounding the phones.
Yeah, and it's great. It's a great business, and there's people that are making a lot of money by helping a lot, and they help out a lot of families.
Right.
But they're able to do that because no one's giving them those messages.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
So
You made mention before we came in here about another avenue that you see a lot of real estate agents taking advantage of, which is like you called them infinity bank accounts, I believe.
yeah, infinite banking.
Infinite banking.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
You're basically becoming your own bank, so that's why it's called infinite. And it was created quite a while back. A lot of banks use it for their own upper management, and a lot of the Fortune 500 use it. You know all the names, and a lot of the people that pass all the way to the Rockefellers, they use this, and all they're doing is they're getting a life insurance policy
Mhm.
that a lot of people know what IULs are, which are indexed universal life policies. That you buy a life insurance policy, and so that I don't get boring about it, you can pull money out about 10, 15, 20 years later
Mhm.
and use that for whatever you need. So you basically borrow it, kind of like a HELOC in the real estate world.
Sure.
Except instead of putting your home up for equity, you're putting up
Your life
your
insurance
basically
policy.
life insurance
Mhm.
policy. And of course, you got to put that money back, or else you're not going to have any life insurance
Right.
left.
Because there's like a lien on it.
Yeah. But you get to borrow it, and there's no late charges and fees and stuff like that. So it's a good way to borrow against it. The problem in the real estate world, and including in the commercial, is usually they want money way quicker. They might
Right.
want to use that money. And so you need to set it up so that you can actually put money in and then borrow it relatively quickly, like in the
Mhm.
next few months. You can borrow that money, let's say 15,000
Instead
or
of waiting
25,
10 years.
right? And then use it to remodel a bathroom or whatnot, and or get a fix and flip ready, or whatever you're doing. If you're helping actually put money into properties and stuff before they're sold, and then you're able to do that and use all that money and then put it back in.
Gotcha.
Except if your agent sets it up right, he can get you to get paid on the whole amount. So let me back up a second. Let's say you have $50,000 of cash
Yeah.
value. You borrow 20,000.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because you did borrow it, you're going to have to pay interest, but it's
Mhm.
usually maxed at 5%, and there's no late fees, and you don't have to pay it back you pay back whenever you're ready.
Right.
But there's got to be some money that they collect on that. But you're getting charged 5% on the 20,000, but you're using that 20,000 to help whatever you're needing to do to create more revenue. And then the insurance company pays you dividends on the whole 50,000,
Wow.
even though you borrowed 20 of it and you're
Right.
playing around with it over here.
As long as it gets paid back.
Well, no, they're paying
Oh,
for
okay.
it even while you're borrowing it. I mean, yeah, you need to pay it back eventually,
right.
but no, it's still making dividends because in their mind, I mean, I'm not an expert in their world, but you're not really borrowing from your own policy. You're borrowing from the institution as a whole.
I see.
So it doesn't operate the same as a bank because it's not a bank.
Right.
So you're making money from borrowed money.
Right.
That's just, it kind of throws people off. They're like, I still don't get it. I'm like, I know, because if you're borrowing money, you should be paying, which you are. But
You are.
You're getting paid on the value of the entire policy of what you paid for it to begin with.
But even if it's a net zero, I mean, you're borrowing money for free.
Right. And so then you put it right back in. And then when you put in, let's say you took out 15 and you made 30, you drop that 30 back in.
Yep.
And now your 50 is worth more.
Sure.
And then your kids need braces. You got 2 kids, they both need braces. That's like $7,000 each. So now you borrow 14,000 to pay for the braces, or you put it on your credit card, get the points, then pay off the credit card right away, and then you pay that money back to the life policy as you see fit. And so you basically create this cycle where you're borrowing from your own stuff.
Right.
We've had people use it to purchase a car.
Yeah, I could see that.
And so you create it your
Especially
own.
if you can get it paid off quickly, in a couple years, opposed to like, taking out like a 5-year note or something like that.
Yeah. But even then, it's still making money. And especially right now with rates, it's going to be cheaper than the bank, than
That's true.
the loan you're going to get from the dealership.
Yeah, I did a loan for a woman that contacted me because she wanted to refinance her home because she just got a brand new Bronco. She was super excited about it. Was telling me all about it. And then I said, so what's going on? She goes, well, now I want to refinance because I just got a 9.9% interest rate on my Bronco. I was like, oh, God.
Yeah.
So.
And then, it's great to refinance, but then you got to pay those fees generally.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now you're out. Here,
We kind of we instructed her that refinancing wasn't the way to go, and that she needs to tough it out on that Bronco loan for right now, and hopefully we can see interest rates come down a little bit. But there you go, public service announcement. Things are expensive, man. You really got to think before you buy stuff. So we talked about education being kind of one of the big pain points in regards to why maybe you're not getting the referral business and everything along those lines, or lack of education. I always ask, when it comes to new business and everything outside of the lack of education on some of the things that you just made mention of. What's another big pain point for you that's keeping you from kind of getting to another level, if you will, in your business?
That's a good question. I I get a lot of people that they hear the message, but they're not quite sure what it is I do
Hmm.
or what they remember, which is makes sense.
Yeah.
It's totally understandable. So I get a lot of people that reach out to me for things I normally don't do.
Okay.
And so over the years, I've been adding those features. So I used to be just critical illness, and then I added life, and then disability,
Okay.
and now I'm able to quote health insurance. But I know that's usually the biggest thing, and then that people don't think they can qualify. I get a lot of people that are like, "Yeah, I've got diabetes,
Okay.
or I'm a cancer survivor. They're not going to cover me." And they'll go. I won't mention their names here, but they'll go to the real big name life insurance companies that we know,
Hmm.
and that are financial institutions. And I'm like, yeah, of course they're not going to cover you. They're not looking for you. They're
Right.
looking for the top 3% of America that's healthy, that has a lot of income and that's healthy. Uh, I can help people out. And so what's great is some of those companies, they send me all of their declines,
Okay.
and which means I have to do a little more work to get them
Sure.
approved. But and I'm getting them approved with A-rated companies. These aren't, you know, these aren't fly-by-night companies. These are uh, completely safe companies that have been around 100 plus years. But I'd say that the biggest majority of people I don't get are people that don't think they can get qualified. Or now with these autoimmune disorders that a lot of people have that they weren't diagnosed with before, um, they just don't think they can qualify, or it's going to be too expensive, and it's not. And sadly, we grew up in an era where our parents would get $1 million policy for life insurance, and they needed it because they needed to pay the home, they needed it for college and all that stuff. A lot of people don't need that anymore. We're not that type of society. If there's a 35 or 40-year-old and they don't have much assets, they don't have much debt yet. Uh, what's wrong with 200,000?
Right.
And we get it to a manageable price. But everyone thinks that life insurance, once you sign up, you've made that decision. And I'm like, no, by law, you can cancel your policy, you can
Right.
change it, you can add policies on top. People don't realize you can get more than one life policy. And so they look at life insurance as this huge project.
Like a huge commitment.
Yeah, a commitment too, yes. A huge
Right.
commitment, a huge project, and that they got to get all this certain money, and they got to figure out all their problems and that they're going to have, and look at all this gloom and doom. I'm like, no, how about we just get you, hey, Matt, if you're not wanting to mess with all that, how about we just get you 100,000,
Right.
because that would help your family, right? At least
Sure.
100,000. That's a lot of money. That's a lottery ticket.
Hmm.
So get you 100,000, and in 20 years, if you don't use it, we'll give you all your money back that you spent on it. And it's going to cost $60 a month, $50 a month,
Right.
$40 a month, whatever. Not going to cost you 15 because they're giving you all the money back. So you're going to pay a little bit more. But all we do is reduce the amount that the policy's with. And they're like, well, but what, don't I need $1 million? You don't need $1 million. That's just way we were raised, because that's how it used to always be.
Yeah.
But if you're not going to get $1 million, or you don't want to pay for $1 million, get 100,000.
Sure.
Like,
Do you
it's like
find
they
that
realize they
do you
don't.
find that is the biggest misconception?
Yeah,
Like in terms of, objections and things like that, that's like the number one thing that you get the most?
yeah. I can't afford it.
Can't afford it.
That's a big one. In that same arena,
Yeah.
and I'm like, do you have Netflix? Like,
Always
yeah.
bringing it back to Netflix.
Everyone knows that. But you might not be paying for Netflix. You might be stealing it, but
Right.
we
Not
all-
anymore.
We all know the value.
They've cracked down, man.
Yeah, they have.
They've cracked down.
But
So what else do we need to know about the insurance stuff and everything along those lines that we haven't covered yet? Again, we talked about education being kind of the biggest pain point that just people just don't know, right? I
Yeah.
mean, even with some of the misconceptions that you're talking about, it really just comes down to education. And then I would envision with all of the companies out there, it's got to be tough for you sometimes to have those conversations because people treat you like the boogeyman.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it all the time. I always say the reason why I want to work with real estate agents is because looking at a home and buying a home, it's fun, it's exciting, it's sexy. Getting the loan is like going to the dentist. And I feel like that's one thing that you and I,
Yeah.
you have to do it, it's good for you, but like who really gets jazzed up about going to the dentist, right?
Yeah.
And so is there anything outside of just education or anything along those lines, kind of like a public service announcement to the other, to people to say, hey guys, like this is what I run into on a regular basis. Let me just dispel this myth.
Yeah. I mean, I would say if you think you're going to have problems, look for an independent agent
Okay.
because they can shop around. So just like you can do the same for car insurance and other types of insurance, you can find independent agents like myself, and we can shop around all the different types and find you something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be what you wanted. And I always tell people, they're like, well, yeah, this is what I want. And I'm like, that's great. But that doesn't mean that's what you're going to qualify for.
Right.
And
Like oatmeal's better than no meal.
yeah, exactly.
Got it.
Every time they're like, yeah, but I really wanted $500,000. And I'm like, yeah, but would your wife like 100,000 or zero?
Right.
There-
Yeah.
I'm like, the 500,000, that's out the door. That's not an option. That's what you want. But because of your circumstances, it could be your age, it could be the pharmaceutical drugs that you're on, it could be all kinds of different things. But that ship has sailed. I always try to tell people when they send their declines to me, I said, okay, so what was plan A? What were y'all trying to get? Okay, good. All right, well, I'm plan B.
Yep.
And there's no plan C. Like, plan C is there's nothing.
Well, and I think one of the public service announcements I don't hear enough people that, are in your position mention is that the longer you wait, the more expensive it's going to become. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. Let's keep it real. These insurance companies are banking on your death.
Yeah.
They're literally gambling on your expiration date. So,
Right.
that guess gets a lot easier
Yeah.
as you get older.
Well, and it's not called, I mean, if it was called death insurance, that wouldn't be a great marketing tactic. But it truly isn't death insurance. Life insurance has many options where you can use that money throughout your life while you're alive.
Right.
And just people don't think of that when they're just thinking of their demise. But the insurance, I've told quite a number of people that were looking at a quote, and they're like, well, my company already gives me life insurance. And I'm like, that's awesome. Keep it. But what does it have to do with what we're talking about?
Right.
I'm like, how much is it? It's $50,000. That's great.
That will barely bury you.
And it costs what? Probably $5. Yeah. Do you know why they take $5 out of your paycheck for $50,000? That's a lot of money. And they're only charging you $5 a month. Do you know why they're doing that? Why is the insurance company doing that? Because statistically, you will not die on the job.
Yeah.
When you leave that job, down the road, you will pass away. But
Right.
statistically, for that 2 or 3 years, and these days we don't work at Ford Motor Company for 50 years
Right.
and live and breathe and die there. We all move jobs now all the time. So with job security down to like zero, you're only going to be at that job for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. The chance you pass away is zero. So then I ask, well, do you have a company car? And they're like, or do you have a company truck you drive? Oh, yeah. Okay, did you sell your other car? No, why would I do that? Well, it's a company car.
Right.
Get rid of your other car. I'm like, well, no, that doesn't make any sense. Well, either does not having life insurance just because you have
Right.
company life insurance.
Because when you leave the company,
You need something now. Now, hey, you wait. Go ahead, wait 5 more years. Guess what? When you call me back, I'm going to make more money because the life insurance company is going to be thrilled you waited an extra 5 years and they're going to pay me more.
it'll be more expensive.
But if you want me to make less money and the insurance company make less money, and you will save more money because if you wait 5 years, when I give you, I'll tell you the rate right now, as if you were 5 years older, and we're not even going to add in inflation. But if I give you the rate right now, you will see in the next 20 years, you will pay more if you wait 5 years and then get it. Because that's what they always want to do. They want to wait because they think it saves them money. And I'm like, you're rolling the dice to save some money.
Yeah.
No, the rate's going to be much higher. In the end, it's never saving.
Just like waiting for home values to drop.
Exactly, especially in this town.
Right. Yeah. No, that resonates with me
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Dagan, I appreciate it, man. Is there anything else that anybody needs to know about the book or your
Um,
business or anything along those lines? You have anything that you need me to, you want to ask me? I mean,
uh,
trust me,
yeah.
I'm going to do 8 of these this week. So
Oh,
if you don't have anything
no,
that,
I will say on the book, because of the listeners, one of the biggest things I've helped is I've helped people in the mortgage industry
Mhm.
brand themselves. This book is not just about networking. It's about how to brand yourself, how to talk about yourself. And realtors, they just a lot of times they don't do very well. And sorry if I make anyone upset.
it's okay.
Okay.
We're not that kind of, you can offend
Okay.
people.
Realtors are notorious, along with the title, the lenders, and the bankers, to all repeat the same message.
Right.
Interest rates are low, interest rates are high. You should buy now, you should sell now. It's always the same message.
And they offer white glove service, and they've
Yes.
got years of
And
experience.
they have great customer service.
That's
They'll hold
right.
your hand. Th- That's not saying anything. You're not educating me. You're not providing any value. And I've been into a group when the realtor says that, and then the title person stands up and says the exact same thing.
Yep.
And then the lender says some variation of almost the same thing. And then the banker gets up and then he does the biggest faux pas. He says, so to kind of say, repeat what the realtor said, they're spot on. And I'm like, why are you wasting your time
Yeah, you got
repeating someone else's message?
Right.
It's, if you're a realtor, stand up and say what you did with your last customer that provided great customer service.
Sure.
What tell me about the phone call and the work that you were doing at 11 p.m. at night, or that you had to help Uber the daughter to her school because the parents were signing paperwork. Like, what are you doing to show customer service? What are you doing to show that you're a great realtor? And if you have a tagline, that's okay. I know there's one tagline, one realtor who had it was like the barbecue realtor.
Oh,
And I love that, because when people are out barbecue, when they're thinking of buying a home, they're usually thinking of, what is it going to look like when I'm outside barbecuing?
sure.
I mean, that's just part of the dream.
I agree.
And so he was creating that. There's one realtor that she calls herself the redheaded realtor. I have no idea what that has to do with selling a home, but it's great. I met her one time, and a year later, I still remembered exactly who she was because she had this title.
Right.
The more things, are you for a certain division or certain part of the city? Are you working with a certain demographic? Have something to say about yourself
Specialize.
that makes you just different, because there's a lot of lenders, title people, and realtors. And so
Well, there's about to be half as many as there were 2 years ago.
do all that. Yeah. That's definitely true. But even then, that's
It's the
still a lot.
COVID of real estate here. They're dropping more than the COVID rate, COVID death rate.
But yeah, that's what you want to do. You want to stand out, and so that's what my book does. It helps. I even talk about that similar scenario about realtors, bankers, and whatnot, all repeating the same message. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't need to know that rates are low. Guess what? Google said it. Yahoo said it.
Yeah.
The TV said it. Newspaper. If anyone reads newspapers, I don't. But newspapers said it. I already knew that before I showed up today. So tell me
And we're
something
going to
that's
assume
new.
you're going to provide great customer service. Like,
Exactly.
no one gets up and says, hey, I'm really shitty at my job. you know.
Right, right. And so, tell us those things, because when you tell a quick story, even if it's 15, 20 seconds, and I talk a lot about that, telling stories, is that's what sticks in people's heads.
Yeah.
So there's people here that are going to say later, they're like, wow, that was a good idea, giving the daughter a ride to school, or picking up the daughter from school because the parents were doing their paperwork. I'm going to have to use that. They're going to use that in their pitch.
Yeah.
Now, imagine you tell that to 20, 30 people in a room. They're going to remember that when they're talking, oh, I know this realtor, he's great. And it's like, well, what makes him great? In this day and age, people do not ever just say, hey, does anyone know a good realtor or good lender or title person or banker, financial advisor, right? On Facebook, when people say it, people start asking why, or they say, he's great because blah, 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 blah,
Sure.
blah. I need to be able to say something. He's good because he provides great customer service.
Yeah.
That doesn't help. It's like, dude's great. With one client, he took the daughter. He had to leave the room and took the daughter to school. He could have called an Uber,
Right.
but he actually took the daughter to her school or activity, whatever, after school activity, because the parents were signing paperwork.
Yep.
And gave them an update and sent them a video saying, hey, here we are, we're on our way, and then came back as quick as possible and did all that during traffic to make sure all the paperwork was there, and then had to be there to sign for it.
Yeah, it's more memorable.
You know, whatever it is, and I just, of course, completely made that up. I don't even know if that's allowed, a realtor to leave the table, but I'm just saying, you know,
Went above and beyond.
if you say something like that in
Yeah.
20, 30 seconds, everyone in the room, whether it's the younger people or, of course, much older people in the room, they need to remember stuff about you that we can repeat 2 weeks later, a month later, 3 months later. So that's what helps. Standing up, if I had $10 for every time I could hear a realtor repeat the exact same phrase I've heard from every other realtor, I could have financed my whole book.
There you right. Well, I finish every segment with, hold up the book, take a look in the camera, don't look at me, give us your quick pitch, who you are, what you do, and where we can find the book, and we'll wrap it up, man.
Yep. Dagan Martinez-Vargas, 20 years in networking and 3 different types of occupations, wrote a book to sum it all up so that everyone can easily get all that information, take it all in, and reuse it. It's $15.95 on Amazon and other platforms that are out there.
Well, let's not forget what else you do. Go ahead and plug the insurance as
Yeah,
well.
I also help people with life insurance, disability, cancer, heart accident programs, and as an independent, I'm shopping around for them. So I'm literally there for the client. I don't technically care what they get as long as they're happy with it and it works for their budget. So I'm truly their rep. I'm like their lawyer. I'm representing them with whatever insurance carrier they end up liking.
There it is. I appreciate you coming on, my friend.
Cool. Thank you.
You did great.